Hello, everybody. This is Melinda Russell, and today is our very first, I'm so excited, Motorsports Masterclass class. And Lauren Fix is our guest today. Lauren's been involved in racing type things for a long time. She has a lot of good stories, she says, to tell us. So I'm going to welcome Lauren to our first class. And first off, Lauren, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you live, what you do, that kind of thing.
Okay, my name is Lauren Fix. Yes, that's my real last name. I'm originally from Farmington Hills, Michigan. My father worked for the big three automakers. And as a kid, I'd go in the garage. I was not interested in dolls and dresses. I was interested in cars and playing poker for Matchbox cars. I was a tomboy. And my father sort of helped me, asked me if I could help. And I said, sure, what do I do? He says, well, can you hand me a screwdriver or whatever? And I go, well, which one? There's a lot of them. So I became the tool jockey, learning about all those different things. And then I would ask, what are we doing this weekend? Because in the garage, he had a 55 Thunderbird, which he was a charter member of the Thunderbird Club and worked for Ford at that time. He had a 67 Corvette, which he later worked for GM. And that was a 327, 350 car. And then he worked at Chrysler Missile and purchased for my mother a 70 Barracuda, 383 slapstick, real cool, bright yellow, black interior, black top. And so there was always something to work on, plus the boat. So I sort of was like, what are we doing? Oh, we're bleeding brakes, we're changing a clutch, whatever that might be. And that gave me an opportunity to ask, what's a clutch? What does it do? And so he would stop as a professional engineer in 3 states. He would draw it out for me. And I then understood. When he lost his job in Michigan, we moved to Buffalo. I've been living in Buffalo since 1975. Of course, I was a kid. I remember how devastating that was at that time to move, because you lose all your friends. But I've reconnected later, as we all have through social media. And I would go out in the garage and help my father. And it was great because when I turned 15, I used to ride my bike everywhere like we all did. And I drove by this used car lot, and I was a huge fan of the Rockford Files. And I wanted I wanted a Firebird, but I couldn't afford one because the money I'd made from working at my dad's company, because he created a brake remanufacturing company in 1975, is sort of side work that turned out to be a gigantic business that I helped bring up to a certain level and sell. But in the meantime, I said, geez, I earned enough money. I'm going to buy a Firebird because I love the Rockford Files. I ended up buying a Camaro. Couldn't even drive it home. They brought it home when I was 15. They parked it in my dad's shop. I must have had 12 coats of wax on it and changed the oil 2 times just because I wanted to see if I could do it. It was probably one of the worst cars I ever bought. It wasn't that the car wasn't reliable. It just didn't have the performance aspects that I liked. And I started, like many of us, we kind of drove when there wasn't people around. Dad would show you how to shift. And, I kind of knew how to drive before I could drive. And I got my driver's license 10 days after I turned 16, because you could do it that way then in New York State. And that was in February. My birthday's in February. In June of that year, actually it was June 28th, 1981, a friend of mine said, hey, listen, would you be interested in coming to an autocross? I go, I don't even know what that is. He says, it's a bunch of pylons in a parking lot, and it happened to be at a drag track, and they used the infield, which was also used for circle track. And he goes, and the fastest time wins. I go, sure, I'm competitive. I'm in. Thinking I got this Camaro. I'm going to kick butt. Yeah, no, I was terribly last. It was painful to realize what a boat this thing was. It had a 305, an automatic transmission. It was terrible. And so that afternoon, after I realized I had a piece of crap for racing, another person came to me who actually dated later on for about 4 years, said, do you want to learn how to drive a manual? And I said, well, I kind of know, but I've never raced with one. And we ended up dating because he was spending so much time showing me how to drive a manual transmission, how to race. And then I ended up, of course, a few months later, I got rid of that piece of crap Camaro and bought my first Ford, which was a 79 Mustang Cobra, which at the time was back when the V8s came in after the gas embargo. And of course, I'm really into like the technical stuff. So it had an S-Rod transmission, which was a 3-speed with an overdrive of this crappy 7.5-inch axle. And I said, this thing's great, but it needs other things. And he goes, well, who's going to do that work? I said, I'm going to do that other work. My father's been showing me for years. So I went to a local salvage yard and ripped apart some cars and started modifying it. I put a 9-inch axle in it. And since my dad had a brake remanufacturing company, I had access to a plasma cutter. I put rear disc brakes on it, put aftermarket exhaust, put a full roll cage in it. And I went to a race later on that year in October. And a friend of mine says, hey, do you want to ride in the pace car? Now, what do? They always put the girl in the pace car thinking they're going to scare her.
Yeah.
You know what? It could have been anything. There could have been Formula Fords, Formula Atlantics, could have been MGTs, it could have been anything. But this is when there wasn't as many race classes. There was showroom stock A, B, and C, which was brand new. And there was GT1, which is basically not even tube frame chassis cars. And they were like cars with roll cages in them. And then there was all these other open wheel stuff. So, of course, it's the GT1 class. And I turned around and see this whole field of ground-pounding Camaros, Corvettes, and Mustangs. It was a regional race. And I said, I am so doing this. So that I'm one of these, I'm very impulsive. I make decisions like, let's do it. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. And I've done a lot of other things that I'm not even going to tell you about, run businesses and created businesses that I sold. But the whole neat thing was I saw an opportunity to have some fun. So I do work to live or live to work, you know what I mean? And I want to play. You know, we all work so we can play. So first thing I did is I went to the bank and I took out a loan for 16-inch wheels, and they thought it was crazy. Here's a kid who's still in high school, wants to get a loan with collateral against her car to buy some rims and tires. They were Epsilon wheels and BF Goodrich Comp TA tires, so I could go racing. So I convinced the bank manager somehow. They signed the deal. My car was collateral, and I had a job, so I was making payments. So I would put the wheels in the back of my car, drive to Nelson Ledges, Ohio, jack up the car myself, put the wheels on, set up everything, do it myself. And always there would be someone saying, well, where's your boyfriend? Where's your father? Where's your brother? Do you have some guy helping you? I'm like, I don't need some guy to help me. My father always said to me, and this is the forward in my third book, nothing can stop you but yourself.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of cool. And I always thought, he never told me I couldn't do it. So I did it. As a matter of fact, that's the whole thing my husband always says. Sometimes I got to tell you not to do things because you open the door and I'm like the dog that runs out the door. You're never going to catch me. So I just kept doing things. You know, I modified the car. I contacted CompTIA. I didn't know I couldn't get a sponsorship. The next set of tires came for free. As a matter of fact, I'm still friends with that guy who's probably not even at BF Goodrich anymore. But it's kind of funny how things evolve. And I started racing, did solo ones, and I had to prove myself. And the worst time ever, and this is, I have a very special picture that I keep in my phone. You know, we all have our phone little picture book. I went to a solo one. It was run by Corvette Cleveland at the time. It was mostly Corvettes there. And they said, oh, well, you have to run in the Corvette class with the women. I'm like, why? He goes, you can't run with the guys. You're a woman. I'm like, this is my favorite. I use this line on Oprah too, because I was Oprah's automotive expert from 92 till the show shut down. I said, why do boobs make me slower? The car doesn't know if I'm a male, if I'm a female, if I'm tall, skinny, what I am. The car has no idea. So the guy said, fine, run in the men's class. You can get your butt kicked. I'm like, we'll see about that. Well, I broke the track record in that class, and I was first in class. I have a picture of me coming home holding 2 trophies. I'm all sunburned. I was a completely different looking person. I had reddish curly hair. And it was one of those pictures you go, I knew I could do it, and I didn't need you to tell me I couldn't do it. And just because I was a woman means that the car knows any different, because it didn't. It's just a matter of being able to do it. And even today, I'll race people into the corner at a turn, like turn 1. I'll take the inside line, and people be freaking out. I'll pass you in turn 2 at Watkins Glen, and they don't know how I do it. And they usually say, and this is not really clean, but they'll say, you got bigger balls than I do. And my answer is usually, sorry to hear that, you know. Yeah. But I hear that a lot, actually, so it's not that unusual. But it's funny the things that I've been able to accomplish I don't believe there's a glass ceiling. I know they say there is one. I think there's one if you put one there. If you give yourself a wall, then there's a wall. If you believe there's no wall, there's no wall. So I've always said, you can do anything you want in life. The only thing that stops you is you. Now, if you go, well, I don't have the money. See, that's not about excuses. It doesn't have to be about money. There's always good people out there that will help you. Absolutely. And I met some amazing people in this business that I would say I call them my brothers. And here I am at an event with 60 people, and all of them, we have a great respect for each other. There's women involved as well. And you can tell if you're smart and you're strong and you're confident, and I don't mean overconfident, I mean, you really are passionate about what you do, people will find you. And it's amazing, even in pro racing. I taught my husband how to race. I met him in '86. And he races professionally. He raced prototypes last year in IMSA. This year we're running in Trans Am. And I love to tell everyone, yeah, I taught him. Because I ran a driving school from 1986 to 2001 at Watkins Glen. We ran through 100 people 3 times a year. And it was all about using my business skills and my racing skills together, because I'll give you a bunch of my metaphors as we go along. I believe every single person has a gift. The key is to figure out what it is. And everybody's good at something. And if you say, oh, I'm not good at anything, that's a line of crap. Everybody is good at something. Everybody has at least one gift. Some people have multiple gifts, and I've met a lot of those people. But when you do, you can find out what it does that makes you happy. And if you can put those things together, then work is not work. You never work a day in your life if you love what you do. And I love what I do, and I never work a day in my life. So my rule is love what you do and do what you love, and you'll never work a day in your life.
That's amazing. So many good nuggets right there in that first 12 minutes that you've given us, because I meet so many girls or women, even women that are a little older, that their goal is to race professionally. And when we know that's very, very hard to get to that point, even first of all, if you're a man in a man's sport, it's even hard. And so now you've coupled that with being a woman, trying to break into that. And that's why I wanted to come up with this series on other jobs, other ways you can do something you're passionate about motorsports. You don't have to be the driver. You can.
Right, it's a shame because sponsorship has dried up. My husband started racing in 1986. I started racing in 1980. He was the best student I ever taught. And it wasn't because he was my husband or my boyfriend at the time. He was an engineer. And he's very specific, but he also restores cars. So he has that art craft side. So he thinks very 3-4 dimensional. And that's part of the skill that makes a really good driver a great driver. He's just got natural gift. For me, I have to ultra focus. But I will also tell you this, ladies, and this is true and guys know it, that when you have children, which is a lot of reason people like Danica Patrick don't have children, is it changes the way you're wired. And in the back of your head, you're always thinking about your kids. My kids are 26 and 24, and my daughter's name is Shelby, after the cars. My son is Paul Fix the third, after my husband, who's Paul Fix the second, who races professionally. And my son raced go-karts from 6 years old on. And I will promise you, the gift that you have of driving or being a good skilled driver may not be exactly the same in your kids, but you still constantly worry about. My daughter's a great driver, totally passionate. She works in the automotive industry, is another job. She works for a company called Drive Shop. So they handle all the fleets for around the country. So if you're a journalist, you're an automotive influencer, which you can make money. You're a social media influencer, where you can also make money at, or traditional journalist, you need a car. You contact Drive Shop, and it goes through my daughter for the whole Northeast. So you would contact Shelby Fix, and then everyone's ranked based on a letter grade. And it took me a long time to become an A, let me tell you. And my son works for that same company, Drive Shop, in the corporate offices in Seattle, and he finds automotive enthusiast marketing people, influencers, people like Donut Media, people that do a lot of YouTube and social media, and there's a ton of money to be made there. And the key is, if you love cars and you have a following, you could sit at home and review cars all day long and talk about racing, anything, and you're an influencer. A perfect example is someone like Natalie Decker, who you may have not spoken with.
I have.
Oh, so Natalie tried Trans Am. She runs with Tony Ave Racing. My husband's the team driver for Tony Ave, who's out of he's out of Maiden, North Carolina, but he's from Wisconsin. But interestingly, she's done a great job influencing. And I think the only thing I would recommend, and I see this a lot, and I highly recommend, from what I used to look like, which is completely different from what I look like now, because I do a lot of national television and I have to have a certain look about me. It took a long time to craft the change. And this is something that's important, that women don't find you intimidating. They find that they can talk to you, not just about your personality, but the way you look. So that means you're not looking sexy or revealing, but you're approachable, or a woman will talk to you, or a man will talk to you, and the wife or the girlfriend doesn't nudge you and go, you're not talking to that person because I feel threatened. On the other side, guys have to know that you're confident in what you do and that you know what you're talking about, as we say, you know your shit. If you do, you're right in that middle path where you'll get that respect. If you go the other direction, try to overshow your knowledge, they're not going to like you. If you go the other direction, like some people I know have gone the sexy side, it destroys every single thing we've worked for.
You
And
lose
that's
your credibility because of
it
how you look.
infuriates me.
Yeah.
And Danica Patrick did the centerfold spread. I'm thinking, what are you doing? And what she did was she actually eliminated Ford Motor Company because I was involved with a project with them at the time. And they said, what is she doing? We will never have her as a spokesperson. We will never utilize her services in any way, shape, or form because we don't sell sex. We are a family company. And most companies feel that way. So before you think that's the way to get someplace, it isn't. And I never sell pink either. That's the other thing. I know a lot of girls like pink. I'm a purple fan. My driving suit's not. It's black and silver. Whatever it is, I don't recommend playing the girl card like, and I'm a girl, because the card doesn't know any different. And people will respect you for saying, no, you're Melinda, and I respect you for what you've done. That's what you want. You don't want someone to look at you as a piece of meat or look at you, oh, she's a girl, or and. You don't need the and. You are who you are, and you want that respect for who you are.
Right. It's funny. TK, we were talking about TK before we started recording this. My little young friend, she's 10, maybe 11, and races the sprint cars. So when we were in Chicago, we were training her a little bit to do some interviews. Mm-hmm. And the first person that we happened to be able to talk to was Billy Venerini.
Yep.
So it was the cutest interview, and it's on our YouTube channel. But the thing that he said to her is just what you've said. The car doesn't know if you're a girl or a guy, because we asked him, why do you have so many girl drivers? And he said, you know, first of all, money plays into it. Sponsorships play into it, first and foremost. But he loves working with the women. They're very dedicated and hardworking. And he said, when they get in the car doesn't know if it's a guy or a girl. Right. They're a race car driver. They're not male or female. And now you're the second person that I've heard that emphasizes that. You know, you're a race car driver, period, end of discussion, once you get in the car.
Right. My race car is an 850 horsepower tube frame chassis, carbon fiber body. It is a 2004 Jaguar XKRS. It's a Trans Am championship winning car. So when Jaguar was owned by Ford back in the early days, the Premier Auto Group, they had Ford motors in them. And that was the year to have, because I wouldn't want to own a Jaguar with a Jag engine. It'd be like, a lot of work. But so because it has a 358 engine in it, I'm running that car the way it ran in 2004. And it's very fast. I'm doing over 200 miles an hour.
Wow.
I don't even know how many G's. I do have a Motec in front of me, so it's a full digital dash. But I got to pull the data on it to get specific to each track. But the car's very fast. It's, you know, usually I'm in the top 3. There's other cars, because we're such a mixed class. We have, you know, cars that are 5 years old versus cars that might be from the 90s. But I truly believe in leaving the car the way it is because it's historically significant. But still, 850 horsepower, you can't let fear scare you. If it is, then this is not the vehicle for you. There are other cars to race. I think it'd be a blast to race like an old Mini Cooper, just because it's all about momentum. It would be such a fun thing to do. It's actually, we were looking at them. I'd be a little afraid about tilting it on the side, but it was a blast to drive. And I have tried open wheel cars. I've done all kinds of racing. I've done drag racing. My first book is about the different types of racing I've done. I've done drag racing, and my favorite type of drag racing was get the cheapest piece of crap car. I had a Ford Fiesta. It cost me $400. I'd take it to amateur night, and I'd run it I'd sandbag the time. In other words, I'd say it was slower than it was, and then the tree would drop down, and I'd take off and cut a perfect light and get to the end, and then I'd nail the brakes. And always the faster car was in the other lane, because it was always like, come here, I'll Corvette some guy in some big, hot, fancy, fast car. They'd break out. In other words, they'd hit the gas before the light actually turned green, or they'd go too fast and they'd break out. So either they redlined or braked out. So it was fine for me. I made thousands of dollars off that car. It was fun.
Yeah.
But then I've also done road rallies. I've helped on pro rally teams. That's not my thing, but I did have a great time doing a ton of road rallies. I don't recommend it unless you really have good rapport with the person with you. And a lot of the SCCA groups run that. They're a lot of fun, but they can also cause breakups and divorces. Mm-hmm. I've never done it with my husband because we'd kill each other. Yeah. But someone's always the navigator and someone's always the driver. And there's a lot of little nuances to that. My book, I'd be happy to give copies away if anyone asks for them. Just email me. Okay. And then I've done car shows. We've done professional car shows. We're going to be at Amelia Island this year. My husband restores the most beautiful early 65, 66 Shelbys you've ever seen. And they sell for top dollar, and sometimes he doesn't sell them, but we've always been about that. And what else? Road racing, car shows, I ran driving schools. I mean, all these, I've done pretty much everything except for circle track and sprint car, and then the crazy, like super high end pro racing. I did do FIA racing in Canada. I had raced professionally for a while. It's very expensive. And unless you've got a sponsor, someone with deep pockets, someone that's totally willing to help you, which I have a lot of friends in this business that are, and it doesn't mean, oh, I come from money and so they won't help me. No, if people like you, they like what you represent, and you don't have to find them. They're actually going to find you by just talking to you, getting to know who you are and say, I don't really like you. And TK will find a lot of that. And so a lot of you that are watching will find that down the road, that you find people you like. But I do have one racing story that not too many people know.
Okay.
So my daughter was born in 1992 and I got pregnant, and then I had another child, my son, Paul. So in Labor Day, now mind you, he was born December 11th. On Labor Day, that's September before, so I'm not 7+ months pregnant, I'm racing a real 63 Cobra, a 289 Cobra at Lime Rock during the Vintage Fall Festival. And I figured, yeah, I'll run this. And then I'll run the next race at Watkins Glen, because they're always back-to-back weekends, my favorite races of the year. And then I'll just stop, because I wouldn't do the Summit Point race and the rest of the races. So I'll just race. Well, at that time, ESPN2 was kind of new, and they were looking for cool stories, and they were covering vintage racing, because that's a big one. Ralph Lauren brings his cars to the show. It was a huge, huge race. So they came by and said, oh, it's pretty cool, girl racing a Cobra. And I said, and I'm pregnant. What? Bring the camera crew. So they brought the camera crew over and they interviewed me, and the other guys in the series in my group weren't aware of that. Some knew, some didn't. And they were like, oh, we're really concerned about this. I said, well, then pass me wide or let me pass you. That's your choice, you know? And they didn't like that. I said, that's your problem, not mine. And they were like, oh, like it didn't stop me, didn't change my brain. The car still doesn't know if I'm a man or a woman. I'm driving the car and I have the skills.
Right.
So I raced, and it was funny. I got on ESPN2, and unfortunately the fuel pump had died, and it was bucking and kicking. And so that was a great end to their little segment saying, was it the car or was it her, you know?
Yeah.
But after that race was over, the people running the organization, which is the VSCCA, which is a Vintage Sports Car Club of America, came by and they said, you can't race while pregnant. And I go, really? So I pull out my GCRs, the general competition rules. I go, where in the GCRs does it say you cannot race while pregnant? And they went, this is Labor Day weekend. He goes, I'll be there by Tuesday morning.
Oh.
So it is. There is a rule in all the general competitions for every race series. You cannot race while pregnant, and that's because of me. And I was pregnant with my son, who loves to tell that story. The best part of this story is Tony Ave, who owns our race team, was on the competition board then. And I totally forgot about that. And he was just telling me about his history just a couple months ago. And he says, I've been on the competition board since the late 80s. I go, have you really? He said, yeah. I said, were you on the competition board I don't know, September of 1993? He goes, sure. Why? I said, you remember hearing about some woman who was racing while pregnant? He goes, oh yeah, I heard about her. We put a rule in the rule book because of that. And I go, yeah, that was me. Blown away. I bet you I could have knocked him over with just a feather. So everyone kind of knows. My husband races in Trans Am, so all the Trans Am people kind of know now. It's kind of funny, but it's a great story because it's something you can never do again. I'm not recommending you do that. I'm just saying it was a different time. As I say, I started racing when racing was dangerous and sex was safe. Now it's the other way around.
Exactly. So true. So yeah, take a drink. You're giving us some great information. So tell me, why don't you share with the listeners, maybe what kind of education did you have to have? What do you do for a job now? Mm-hmm. And what kind of education do you recommend for someone who wants to get into a different area of motorsports besides the driver?
Okay.
I realize, a mechanic's going to require one kind and that, but just overall, can you share about that?
Well, I guess it depends what you want to do. I mean, everyone has a passion. Like I said, if you really like business and you like the business side of this, you can still be heavily involved, whether you work for the SCCA, or you work for IMSA, or you work for NASCAR, or maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you want to work for one of these marketing companies and you really like that. I would recommend a business degree for anybody, because a business degree helps you get a better grasp on how money is made, how money is spent. It isn't frivolous, believe me. Everything is calculated. I'm actually an entrepreneur. I call myself that. I have a business degree with concentrations in marketing and economics. I also taken a ton of engineering classes, and I do a lot of continual education. I'm an ASE certified technician. I'm also a member of the Society of Automotive Engineers. I used to design and build brake systems, and I thought I was going to do that for the rest of my life, because I will promise you, no matter what you go to school for, no matter what you think your path is, you will wake up one day and go, how the hell did I end up here? Because I thought I was going to run my dad's brake business. My mother told me that no matter what I do, I'll be successful. And I had an opportunity in 1986 to be on Motor Week television. As a matter of fact, John Davis, who's the host, is here at this event that I'm at today. And we were just discussing that last night. And I went on to talk about braking systems and how they're different, and silicone brake fluid versus all the other brake fluids. And one of the producers came up to me and said, these are things that will happen to you too. Why are you doing this? You should be on television every day. You should be training dealers about cars. And I went, what the hell is that all about? So at the time, remember this is the 80s, he said, you get paid $200 a day as a professional driver, even though I had an education, to go chase pylons in a parking lot while dealers learn the vehicles. And I'm thinking, okay, I can do the math on that. That's $1,000 a week. Damn, I'm there. So my father said, yeah, go do it. He never stopped me. As his only child, he never stopped me and told me I couldn't do something. And so I did. He was very supportive. So I drove to Cleveland, Ohio, which is like 3 hours away, and I'm chasing pylons in a parking lot thinking, this is BS. I can't believe I have a degree and I'm chasing pylons. And I did the job, and I got paid for 5 days. In the meantime, I talked to the owner of the company and said, I have a degree in marketing. Chasing pylons is sort of like waste of money for you when you could use me for something else. And she said, it was a lady, the company's still in business. It's called Jackson Dawson, and they hire a lot of dealer trainers. And the pricing has changed a lot because there's been a lot of changes in the industry, but there's still a lot of money to be made if you'd like to travel and be involved on the OE side. In other words, the original manufacturer side, learn to meet people, meet dealers, which is also a great industry opportunity. And I ended up doing marketing breakouts, and I did them all over the country. And they said, you know what, you're really good. Would you be a lead facilitator? And that's when the money got big. It got real big. And my husband's like, I got the kids. See you later. Send the check. And I would come home on Friday night late. It was 5 cities, 5 days. Come home on Friday, leave on Sunday night, be in wherever, St. Louis, Oklahoma City, you name it. And then the money was really fabulous. And it was in spurts. They were in 10-week stints. So it got very, very old, very, very quick. And if you didn't like someone who was with you, you had to learn to deal with it, and that's life anyhow. There's people you race with you don't like, there's people you live with you don't like, you can choose your friends, you can't choose your family kind of thing. And I got to be a lead facilitator. I was working on Nissan Altima at the time when it just came out. We were in Jersey City, and I was thinking, this is getting really old. I've been doing this since 1986. It's 2001. And sometimes in your head, you're thinking it's time for a change, but you just don't know what. And the message from God in my head was 9/11, when I could see the smoke from a distance, and all I thought was, I had rented a car, and I never rented a car during those things. It was one of those things that, like, get in the car and go home. And no one wanted to tell the 400 dealers, the sales guys that were there, what had happened. And I went up and told them all what happened. I said, you guys do what you need to do. This is all BS. And as I drove home, I said, it's time for a change. And that was it. And I started switching to journalism, which is not recommended these days. Automotive journalism is a dying breed. There's a lot of kids graduating from college. I'm going to write about cars. I'm going to review cars. It's a really tough business. Right now, I would say when I started 30 years ago writing about cars and reviewing them, there were hundreds of us, hundreds of amazing print outlets. When's the last time you opened a magazine? When's the last time you bought a newspaper? Everybody's cutting cords. So if it's not online, like this show, people don't typically see it. And we all live on social media with attention spans of a gnat. Mm-hmm. So because of that, I don't recommend automotive journalism. There is writing if you're a great writer. in working at a PR firm or a marketing firm, writing press releases, working for manufacturers, huge opportunities. I have a friend who worked at Porsche for years and got a great opportunity to run their motorsports program. I never see Dave anymore. He's in Germany, I'm at the Nürburgring. He's in racing, and he gets to play too because they're factory cars, and somebody has to test drive them. And Dave loves to race. He's into restoring cars too. So he found an opportunity where he's still in love with his cars, and it's Porsche. I mean, that's a hard job to get because believe me, there's not that many employees there. And he's racing cars and helping consumers. But when you're also on the dealer side as training, you're still involved with cars. And sometimes there's racing events. And some ex-racers like Tommy Kendall, because he's a known name, they utilize those talents not just for the media, but they use it to help train people how to drive. So there's a lot of great opportunities if you're really a well-known, great driver with excellent skills. But if you say, I've got the skills, I don't have the known name, you can train at dealers, you can work at a dealer situation, you can be a salesperson. That's a tough job. You have to really be very flexible and used to people. If you're not a people person, there's inside jobs. You can do marketing, you can do PR, you can do accounting even. There are so many different aspects of it. There are people that I know that have graduated college with a degree in computers and programming and really like deep dive stuff. And what they're doing now is they have an Opticoat franchise. They're putting that real cool, clear coating on their cars. These are two guys that are so well educated, they could probably build their own computer system and all the networking behind it. They found a great business in putting Opticoat on premium, high-level exotic cars. And they get to drive them afterwards. And then they get to drive them to people's houses. They go to people's homes. And I mean, they meet the coolest people. There's a young man in our area who started Cars and Coffee Buffalo. And I'm a big supporter of him. He never asked for money. But if I can help him, I'm always there. His passion is so strong. He reached out to everyone in the area. We didn't have car clubs for like McLarens and Lamborghinis and Ferraris, and he created a Cars and Coffee Buffalo. And actually this weekend, I own a Ford GT. My business is constantly moving and shifting. But I help him, and he brought all these people together. So if I can help Matt, absolutely, well, I'll help Matt. Not because he's asked, because I see his passion. And that's where you're going to find people saying, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? But for me, in doing all this training, I got an opportunity to be on Oprah in 92 to talk about winter driving of all things. This is before she really got into all the celebrity. And it was in Chicago. There's a big snowstorm and she got stuck in it. So that's how it sort of like raised a flag. So again, timing is everything. Mm-hmm. And when someone knocks at the door, don't ever say no. Listen, you don't have to accept that opportunity. Listen to it. Think about it. Don't be pressured into an answer. And if you're not sure, ask someone. Believe me, no one likes anything more than to be asked for their advice. That doesn't mean
absolutely.
You don't have to take it. But it's all evolved into giving me more exposure. And then when CNN was just new, they called me to do automotive. And then it was Fox, and then it was CNBC, and then there's a bunch of networks that aren't there anymore. And so now I'm the automotive expert for Inside Edition, the Weather Channel, Fox Business, CNN International, Newsmax TV, and I'm independent for a reason. USA Radio, I write for Parade, Forbes Magazine. I do a His Turn, Her Turn car show with my co-host. I have huge social media reach on my YouTube channel, which is Lauren Fix, or Car Coach Reports. You can follow me on Twitter at Lauren Fix. I'm always putting up stuff that you probably want to know about. I don't put up crap. I don't put up politics. I just put up things that impact you, that you want to know. Facebook, of course, you pick it. Snapchat, I'm on everything. But you have to be. These days, if you're not on everything, including Pinterest, you go, who the heck's on Pinterest unless you're remodeling a bathroom? You'd be surprised.
Exactly.
Because you need to go where people live in order to get your message out. But the key for me is there's a book out. It's old, but if you don't want to read it, you can look at the Spark Notes or online. It's called Who Moved the Cheese?
Oh.
If you've not read it, it's very valuable. Because the story in a nutshell, in a really quick nutshell, is all the mice come every day and the cheese is put down there and they eat the cheese. And every day the cheese is there, so they go and they eat it. But one day they get there and the cheese is gone. So a bunch of the mice stand around going, well, should we wait? I'm going to wait for the cheese. It's going to come someday. And a bunch of them mice go, well, I'm going to look elsewhere because obviously it's not here. We've been waiting. We're starving to death. What are we going to do? So a couple of the mice stay behind. The other mice go looking for the cheese and they find cheese elsewhere because the cheese has moved. But the mice that stayed behind and thinking that the cheese is coming back, they end up dying. And the moral of the story is The cheese is constantly moving in our industry. There's a constant evolution of cord cutting, of social media. This channel's good, this channel's bad. So when the newest thing comes out, get on it. We're on Zoom, it's new, you learn about it. You have to, because if you don't,
you're left in the dust.
Right.
You're left in the dust.
Right. And my daughter's 26, so we have this great little challenge because when she wanted to get on Facebook originally, that's how I had to learn was, I want to get on Facebook. I said, yeah, if I have your password. So now it's become this little race. Hey, did you hear about this new app? I'm on it. Because every single app that's new, I have my name, Lauren Fix. And the reason I have it is I'm new. I still have an AOL account that is my initials because it's been, as a matter of fact, when I used to call AOL, they're like, how the hell did you get that? I go, you remember those discs they used to send you in the mail? I still have that. It's a junk account now. I just, people go, I need your email, goes there. But anything you can use, I have laurenfix.com. I'm early at that. I trademarked my name. My daughter Shelby Fix goes to her channel on my website. But you have to be early on this stuff, especially if you have a unique name. It's easier. If you have a pretty normal name like Joe Smith, you don't want to be Joe Smith 5674329 because I'll never find you.
Right.
My co-host is Paul Bryan. He uses the Paul Bryan. So you might find other ways to do that. But my suggestion is be early, learn. Life is a constant learning lesson. If you haven't learned something once a day, you're leaving something behind. So every day, try to learn it doesn't have to be how to play the piano. The idea is that you learn something that you didn't know. I didn't know that. That's new. You learned something new today.
Absolutely. And it's interesting you mentioned Pinterest because I really never got into that much, even though I was a big crafter, scrapbooker. I design cards I have a send out cards business. And so I've done that for a long time and I used to do graphic design, but the Pinterest thing, I'm 62 years old and I'm not into really all new recipe. I just really never got into it. Mm-hmm. Then I started the International Women's Motorsports Association about a year ago.
Yep.
And of course, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, but I've been reading more and more and more because I want to share with everybody what's the best way to do things. And Pinterest is one of the things that they highly recommend any business person be on Pinterest. And it's funny because I have a Pinterest account. I relabeled it IWMA and I started sharing racing, pictures and I've got all kinds of people following me now.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
It's very cool. And then LinkedIn too. LinkedIn was one that a lot of people hadn't done. And I was on LinkedIn for send out cards for a long time, but so I've changed that over now to the IWMA.
Smart.
And I went in and I searched under racing, and these are people of influence that are on LinkedIn, a lot of them.
I get all my business off of LinkedIn. You wouldn't believe the communications I get. PR companies that want to hire me, speaking events that want to hire me. I do a thing called Lauren Speaks. And I either tell my story or I talk about motivating people in general. And I've spoken for American Express, Maui Jim. I never know who the hell's going to call. It's awesome. But LinkedIn is absolutely a must. I actually crafted both of my kids to help them do their LinkedIn when they were in high school. And they said, why? I said, because you can post stuff. You start networking. My network is your network. Well, because of my last name, it's pretty easy to spot me. And I've got a pretty elevated name. My social media reach is somewhere around 14 million. But because I'm constantly working the craft, constantly working the system. Yeah. And you have to say, if you follow me, Melinda, I'll follow you back. If you follow me, I'll follow you back. And what happens is it causes a network that's nice and tight. And when I do need cards, I'm going to say, hey, Melinda, send me some information about your card business. I'm doing a party. And, that's the kind of thing. Or I like that dream sign that's behind you. Did you make that? I want that. So that's the kind of thing that I think people like to support people that have the similar interests. And when they're looking to hire someone in any way, shape, or form, they're going to find you. They will find you through LinkedIn. I'm telling you, that's probably one of the best assets you'll ever have.
I agree. And I see so many people on Twitter. Racing is huge on Twitter.
Yeah.
But on the LinkedIn, when I put racing in, it's like, VP of something at Roush Fenway, director of marketing at Kyle Busch Motorsports, whatever it is. And it was like, that was one of the best things that I've done is connect with those people. I just talked to a guy last night
Mhm.
at Phoenix. Well, now it's ISM, but it was Phoenix International. And we had a great conversation about, coming to the track, all the changes, and because of LinkedIn. So
And,
I
and
highly
we're
recommend it.
connected, so that means you might see some of my connections that might be of interest, and you may say, "Hey, Lauren, I really like to meet so and so," or "I heard you talk about Tony Abbey. I can't get to him." No problem. So I would then send an invite for Tony to meet you, and then he would go, "Oh, Lauren recommended that I'm now friends with Melinda," and
Right.
that's how that happens.
It
It's
is.
kind of neat. Yeah, and it's not just jobs, but it's good for business. My son got his job. They have a jobs tab as well.
Yeah.
He got his job and found out about the job availability on LinkedIn. They hadn't even posted it on Indeed or anything, and that's how he got his job.
Yeah,
And what he
absolutely.
did is he
So,
went and saw who my son was linked to, who I was, and who I was linked to, and he goes, "Okay, this guy's was brought up in the business." So he
yeah,
wasn't like some guy who just likes cars and no one in his family was connected. So he realized there was some connection. So they
yeah.
brought him in for an interview, and then you sell yourself.
Exactly. That's such good advice for people.
Yep.
I'm in the process because once this masterclass series is done, the next one is going to be about branding. And a lot of race teams, big and small, some do
Mhm.
really good at it, some don't. But the whole branding thing too is about behavior.
Yes.
Your behavior is part of your brand, and a lot of people don't get that either.
Oh,
And
yeah.
talking about what you should or shouldn't post and those kind of things,
Yes.
I'm having a ball actually writing the course because
Well, I
it's
can help you with the
fun.
branding. I branded myself as the car coach, and it's become a brand. I also, at some point, we were able to beat the big teams in early Trans Am from 2000 to 2006 because there was a lull when they weren't around. Um, it was interesting because we were coming up against factory teams. It's like, how are you going to beat them? How are you going to beat the exposure? I said, I can beat the exposure. No problem. It was easy because my husband's not my personality. I'm very A-type. He can be very A-type if you push him, but he's not. He's a great guy, real smart, but he's engine engineer, so he's not like my personality. So I called him the wired piranha. And he goes, "What?" So, because a piranha says, "Look at the cute little fish in the tank." Yeah, go ahead, put your hand in the tank, and you're
Uh-huh.
going to come out with a bone, right?
Yeah.
Well, so that's how my husband is. He's the nicest guy until you get him on the track, and he turns into a piranha. So we called him the wired piranha. So everyone was handing out big fan cards and all this stuff. I had my kids putting temporary tattoos on people's shoulders that said the wired piranha. I got a pile of them stuff. And we were handing out bags because while everyone was struggling with, I noticed, with posters and fan
Yeah.
cards and stuff people were giving away, there was no bags. So I made bags that said, "Paul Fix, the wired piranha, car number 77." And it was everywhere. And Paul Gentilozzi, who was running the series at the time, was so pissed that I beat him at his own game. Everyone was carrying around Paul Fix fan bags for all the cars.
Yeah.
Even his stuff was inside. So they made it take the bag home. So it was just really great for branding. And it helped us get a sponsorship. We had the Kimpton Group hotels. We used Buca de Beppo's when they used to sponsor. They gave us food. We would get so much coverage. And the smart branding thing is we get more food than we need, right? What do you
Right.
do with it? Well, you could give it to another team, or you give it to the guy who's announcing.
Oh,
The
yeah.
announcer's up in the announcer booth. They're eating crappy sandwiches that have been sitting there all day, the dried out bread, and you're bringing them up pasta and meatballs and Caesar salads and all. I always purposely set aside an extra tray for them, and they would go rave. "Oh my God, thanks, Lauren Fix from the Car 77, Paul Fix, Jaguar. This is great. We're actually eating real food thanks to Buca de Beppo's." That's local
Exactly.
advertising, and it worked every time. You can do it with pizza, you can do it with cookies, you can do it with anything.
I'm gonna remember that because a really good friend of mine is an announcer at a couple local tracks, and
Food. That's it.
he gets a lot of cards from me and brownies and stuff that we send through send out cards. And then we sponsor some races when my son had a race car, and we got a lot of press from him during those races to where everybody knew send out cards. They might not know what it was or what we did, but they knew the name
Good
because
branding.
and so you build that relationship, and then you feed them a little bit of goodies and they don't forget you.
Now, especially if you bring it up during the race, you bring it up just before the
Yes.
race starts. If you're doing a local circle track, these guys, that maybe the race, like it's a night race and it starts at 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock, bring them up a pizza. Your
Right.
sponsor is a local pizza place. "You brought me a pizza? Like a real pizza? Like some crappy cold thing that's someone pulled out of the freezer.
Right.
And we brought you Cokes and whatever, waters. And
Yeah.
we're going to say, thank you so much for the car number, whatever. We appreciate the pizza. You say, I'll just keep bringing it to you if you don't mind, because I just feel for you guys. You're working so hard up there.
Absolutely.
And we appreciate what you do for us, because we're nothing without you announcing.
Yeah.
Now you got a friendship. And I've done that with so many people out there that I'm friends with, so many of the announcers from different race series that have moved all over the place. And you meet other drivers that become announcers and they all know you. And if I have food left over beyond that, I always find the race team that's struggling. And I go up to them and say, hey, you guys need some food. They're like, oh my God, we're starving. And I would bring them the extra food. And that's how we got to be friends with a lot of other teams also.
Yeah. You know, that's funny. We have so many things kind of in common in some things, because Todd Gilliland and his dad came to Kalamazoo to race a few years ago for the big race that they have. It's called the Kalamazoo Clash. Yeah. And it draws some pretty big names. Well, at the time, Todd was still racing, I think, ARCA and or CRA. And so they came, and it just so happened that we had gotten introduced to David Gilliland at PRI when we had a booth there one year. Yep. So he and my son developed a friendship. They came to Kalamazoo to race. They rented the track the day before, invited us to come out and use the track with them. We did. And then I fed them, because I'm from here. And the wife and the daughter were there. It was all guys. Yeah. And so I went to the local Harding store and got, whatever, it doesn't matter, food. And
took a pot of chili. Make a pot of chili. Yeah.
And they've been our friends ever since. And now, Todd's really doing well in the truck series and that. And every time I see them, and then I also have sent them a lot of brownies. Whenever he wins, he gets a card with brownies.
Oh, I bet he loves it.
and they know me as the brownie lady, and I love it. It's great. And so
your business, you're now the brownie lady. You should be selling them.
Yeah, well, kind of through send out cards, but it's just building those relationships with people. You never know who that person knows.
That's true. And food is the connection. Let me tell you. I've made chili at the track. We've had chili cook-offs. We used to do a lot of vintage racing before that, and I always do this. So many people from the South, so many people from the North, and at Summit Point every year we do this North-South cook-off. And I used to always say, you guys from the South bring things. And so I got sucked into organizing this.
Because you're the woman.
Yeah. Well, I offered to do it, kind of thing too. But I love plotting and being entrepreneur and creative. And I had all the people from the South bring things, and they would each tell me what they had, and I would contact them and email them and call them, because it wasn't like the internet is today. And they would all bring, like, I'm bringing alligator, I'm bringing moonshine, like, I'm bringing chicken wings. Oh yeah, I'm bringing, Cincinnati chili. And, people from Philly would bring stuff to make Philly cheesesteaks. And we would all get together, and we would wear blue and gray hats, depending on which team you were on. And we would all just try each other's food and have a great time. And we do it on that Saturday night. It was just a way to feed everybody. And it was really one of the best things, because I know so many people at the track. And even through my driving school, people that learned how to drive and then got into racing, I've created a lot of monsters. And those out there that know, I'm like, thanks, Lauren, because it costs a lot of money. It's just a pit in the asphalt we all pour money into. Yeah. That's what I call it. If you're into boating, it's a pit in the water. If you're into golf, it's a pit in the green.
Yep.
Pick your pit to pour cash into. It's great, because as they become pro racers, I run into them. And some of them I trained with. Terry Borcheller, I can't think of all these people. Cindy Lux, who you need to interview. Love Cindy Lux. Wonderful human being. She lives in Portland, Oregon. Fantastic driver. We raced together in the Women's Global GT Series. She now runs in Trans Am, and she's one of my favorite people. I love Cindy. She's really done a lot of cool stuff, and she's been through a lot. There's actually a lady named Mimi Lux, who I met years ago at Firestone Racing. This is way back. We're back to the 80s. And her son got into go-kart racing with my son, and he races in vintage with me. And we were just talking about old go-kart racing days. So it's just kind of neat, these people you meet. And you know what the one thing is? The commonality of everything is cars. Mm-hmm. You don't know what these people do for a living. Yeah. Mimi Lux is an attorney, and she owns this gold refining company, and they're super successful. I didn't know that. I just knew her as a woman I raced with. Cindy runs a business in Oregon. I have friends of all walks of life. I used to race with a guy named George Stauffer. I had no idea who he was until I was in Madison, Wisconsin. And he goes, hey, I want to show you my car collection. Oh, yeah, he's got a car collection. He's got the biggest collection of Shelbys and Cobras and military equipment you've ever seen, including firearms. It was unbelievable. And I go, how did you end up this way? Oh, My parents started, remember we used to get those books in the mail that sold cheese? They were like gift packs.
Wisconsin cheese or something.
Swiss Colony.
Oh, yes.
Remember Swiss Colony?
Oh,
Just
well,
like at Hickory
absolutely.
Farms. They would sell like boxes on
Yeah.
boxes of stuff. That was his family business.
Oh.
And they sold it. So he's loaded. He's got a Lamborghini LM002, which is like the only SUV they built with a 50 cal gun turret on the back. And this guy's an unbelievable collection. I raced with this guy, had no idea who the hell he was. We just became friends. And it's kind of neat because that common bond is interesting. I went through a situation which a lot of people don't know about. I had intestinal cancer, and I'm fine. It was about 14 years ago. But every single person that did my surgery or worked on me was car related. The surgeon knew me because of cars. The guy who was the anesthesiologist knew me because of cars. The friend who gave me advice was cars. I mean, everyone was cars. And because of that, they kind of pushed me through the line and got me through it quicker. It is really interesting. Car people love each other because of cars. They bond together like no other industry I've ever seen. And I don't care if you're into racing, if you're into collector cars, show cars. Our network is so tight. I have a friend who's from outside the industry who just purchased Drive Shop, and he says, because I cannot believe how tight knit this community is. I said, oh, it's not just the collector cars, it's original equipment cars, it's the industry as a whole. Automotive is a very tight family. And I would say, just to give you an idea how tight it is, to look at it from a financial perspective and take a step back, half of the Dow Jones, half of the stock market is impacted by the automotive industry. Half.
Wow.
In some way, shape, or form. So don't tell me there's not an automotive job out there for you. I don't care if you're working in any aspect. Go look at the Dow Jones. Half of it has some impact because of the auto industry, whether that's autonomous cars, it's tires, it's components, it's some aspect. There's a million companies out there looking for passionate people, and that's the hardest thing they can't find.
Yeah, exactly. The race family is the thing. You know, I interview a lot of women who race at their local track. They're not famous. They don't care to be. They're never going to be. Yeah. But the thing I hear interview after interview, when I say, what do you love most about racing? It's the people. It's the race family. It's, you know, and then the stories start to come. Oh, this happened. And this is what they did for me over and over. Yeah. And there is no other sport, one, where you can get close to the drivers like we can in racing.
Yes.
There's no other sport that has the camaraderie, I don't think, after you leave the track. So, you know, my son-in-law is a fabulous baseball pitching coach. And he's got a group of people, and he's got lots of contacts, but they're not like the racing family.
True.
It's so different. And I don't care where you live, because I've been getting friend requests from people who I can't even read their posts because they're posting in a different language.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're posting something good, but
there's a translator all the way at the bottom.
I know. I have done that some, but they're all interested because of racing, of cars, of drag cars, of show cars. It doesn't matter.
Right.
If you're into cars, trucks, you know, whatever.
Off-road. My girlfriend who you need to interview, Sue Mead, she's been racing off-road for years. She's part of the jury that I'm the president of North American Car and Truck of the Year. So when they call the Car of the Year, she's on the jury. I'm the president of that jury. So I call the Car of the Year in Detroit every year. That's what I'm here doing. We're doing all the competitive drive. But she's great. She's been racing off-road. She's got shot at in places in other countries. I'm like, I'm out there, you know, I love racing, but I'm not getting shot at.
No, me either. Yeah, I'm sure.
I'll connect you to Sue. She's got fabulous stories too.
Yeah, you're gonna have to send me some people to interview because this is amazing. Yeah, I just can't get over. When I started this association, I couldn't find anything where women could meet in one place, you know, through the internet, where they could talk, share, show what they're doing. And not that we don't celebrate the men too, we do, but the women were being lumped in and often at the bottom.
Yep.
And so I just was looking for a way to connect the women, and it has absolutely changed my life. I've met so many amazing people like you. I could sit and listen to you all day.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, we're going to have to meet in person for sure.
Yeah.
And my heart gets filled with so much joy when I talk to a young gal that's 23 years old and she wants to be whatever she wants to be in life, she just wants to be able to race because she loves it.
Right.
You don't see people bowling or football, or you don't see that. And you can do it till you're 80 years old if you're in the right shape.
That's true. I work out every day. Trust me, I live a paleo lifestyle. I have for 8 years, partly because of the surgery and what I had to go through. But you know what? It keeps me lean. I work out. My husband and I do yoga, Pilates. We do weights. We do cardio. I mean, but you know, there's nothing better than having a good old steak. So,
Yeah.
but it's funny that the people are really fabulous, and the people you meet that are historic, you know, part of history is really cool. I've met some really amazing people. We were very close with Carroll Shelby before he passed. Of course, he was a racer. My daughter was very close with him as well. Her name is Shelby, obviously. But it's just a whole neat thing. And there's some wonderful guys in this business that are very, very supportive of helping people, not just women. And we're all very, I think the one thing about car people is there's a lot of sarcasm. You better be able to say that as a secondary language. And my biggest advice for women in this business, and I've heard all this stuff's going on, politically correct, blah, 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 blah. Bottom line is, you need to have thick skin. And my father told me one piece of advice that I use pretty much every day. And I've had my time where guys have given me crap. And I've had times where they've got out of their way to make my life hell. And I'll get them back. It's just a matter of time. Not necessarily on the track. I had a couple people, you know, do some nasty stuff to try to get back at me. That was then, this is now. But my father always told me, even as a kid, you need to be an M&M. And I used to say, what do you mean? He goes, hard on the outside, you can be as soft as you want on the inside. You don't have to let people in.
Yeah.
And when, I'm not saying everybody, because there's a lot of great people out there, and you'll let them in and they'll know. I come across very strong. People are like, oh, shit, this woman, no one's going to like her. And they meet me and they go, wow, you're just so different than I expected. I'm very warm. I'm very, if you know me, you know how to push my buttons. But if I come across and I meet you, I'll reach out and go, hi, I'm Lauren Fix. And they're like, whoa. I just had a situation just the other day. I was at Watkins Glen second weekend of September. And they mixed this stupid group of ITG cars. So they had like Ferraris that were made of carbon fiber mixed with my car, mixed with Porsches. It was ridiculous because we all drive different lines on the track because they're rear engine, I'm front engine. And he came in on the inside of me, but he wasn't in the passing zone. I took the corner. I got more power than he does. I took off. Well, afterwards, he came over to the pits and he says, who's driving that Jaguar? And I'm still in my driving suit. And I come out and I'm like, my husband's like, what are you going to say? I'm like, I'm crafting a conclusion in my head. In my head, I'm thinking, there are 3 ways to handle this. 1, I can tell him to stuff it up his backside and get the hell out of my pit. 2, I can say, hey, dude, this is racing. Or 3, I could play that Me Too card. I was thinking about doing that, and I'm thinking, this could be fun. This could be fun. I could really play with this guy. So I told you, you got to be tough in this business. So I come down, and I go, can I help you? Because you drive this Jaguar? I said, I certainly do. What can I do for you? Now, that comes across pretty strong.
Yeah.
And he's still in his suit. I was driving that Ferrari. You cut me off. And he's yelling and screaming. And I just sit back and I listen to him vent, just like you would anyone else. I'm not going to fight him, you know. And so all the guys working on my husband's car, because it was a vintage race and a Trans Am race together, so they all stopped and they're watching like they're going to defend me, my guys.
Yeah.
Trust me, I'm a blue belt in karate. I can take care of myself. So I'm letting this guy vent, and I'm thinking to myself, I could play the Me Too card, but this guy's probably going to freak out. I could have gone after him and said, well, I'm a girl. You're obviously upset with me because I'm a girl. I'm telling you that will never sell in racing. If you try to do that, you will be shunned by our community, because that's not how it is. You are a driver.
Exactly.
So I said to him, listen, this is racing. Your nose was not at my driver's door. I'm faster than you. You came up out of nowhere and tried to stick your nose in there. This is racing. He goes, well, you knocked off my passenger mirror. It's going to cost me X amount of dollars. And I said, no damage to my car. I go, this is racing. It wasn't intentional, because if it was, you'd be in the Armco. And he goes, and he walked away. And everyone's like, woo, we thought you were going to get into it with him. I said, I was thinking I could just screw with his head a little bit and play that Me Too card. But I thought, you know what? This guy's being a real jerk. So I'll just play his game, you know.
And all the guys behind you went like this.
Yeah, they were all hugging me. It was great. It just happened a couple of weeks ago. And then Tony Ave's there with all his guys and crew chiefs and all the technicians and engineers. We have like 18 guys in our team. And my daughter was staying way back in the corner. She was laughing. She goes, Mom, she goes, I was watching you. She goes, I thought you were going to kill him. I said, you know, the key is I'm not looking for a fight. But if you come over here looking to get in my face, you better be able to defend yourself. And that happened to Natalie Decker too. Someone said she cut her off and she just kept saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. She's a wonderful girl, but she's also very young. And I said, can I talk to you afterwards? And she said, yes. And I said, Natalie, you're a great driver. You don't know this car in this series and you're learning it. But the worst thing you can do is apologize. Just go, sorry, and say it with confidence. Sorry. You know what I mean? Because the fact is, if you start going, oh, I'm a girl, I'm new and all that, they're never going to respect you. The respect is something you earn. And it's not gifted to you because of your last name or how much money you have or what car you're driving. It's something you earn. And it's not just on the racetrack, but it's in the pits. So you create friendships with people. They get to know who you are and what you're about. And they know they can count on you. I have more guys coming to me telling me their personal problems. I feel like I'm everybody's psychiatrist or mother than anything else because they rely on me because they know I'm not going to steer them wrong. I'm a straight shooter all day long.
So Natalie Decker drives for Venerini, and I had followed her, and then I was able to meet her. Then we got to interview her. Then I had her on my radio. I had a podcast early on that was just audio, wasn't the video. Had her on, have seen her several times.
She's doing great.
She is a sweetheart, but she has to be the M&M. She can be as sweet as she wants to, but yes, and she is young, and she's in a big series where she gets a lot of press, and I think it's a lot to learn. She's got great people around her, but
her parents are very supportive.
Very supportive, and not just her. There's other girls that are in that same situation that have to learn that, hey, once I'm here at the track, I'm a race car driver. Right. I'm not any different than the guys, all the rest of them that are probably guys. And and such good advice, you know. Really appreciate that. Wow. We could go on and on, but I know you have an appointment you have to go to.
Yeah, I have one piece of advice. I was on Oprah. I had to do she asked me to go on her Live Your Best Life tour. And it was all these different cities around the country, and I really got a chance to know her. One time
they went on a bus, didn't they?
Yeah, we did all kinds of stuff. We had I learned a lot, and I got to meet her. And I mean, I don't have her phone number or anything, but I really got a chance to learn from her. And one day she couldn't get out of this building because they had locked all the doors. It was in DC. And they said, hey, listen, everybody, all the rest of the experts have left. Can you just get on the stage, on this round stage, and just distract people to let her out? And so she stuck out the back. So I'm like, what am I going to do to keep these people's attention? Because they were giving a giveaway at the end. And they, of course, if they saw her, they go chasing after her.
Right.
So I got up on the stage and I'm thinking, oh my God, I already did my shtick. What am I going to say? You know what I mean? So I'm looking around and I start talking about women and cars and this and that. And that's kind of what she wanted. And I said, ladies, here's the bottom line. These don't make you stupid. Your boobs do not make you stupid. They make men stupid. And they just started laughing. And I just went on this whole thing about, you know, cars don't make a difference, remember, no matter what you're driving. Even a street car. Your street car doesn't know what you are. Your race car doesn't know if it's a man or a woman. It only knows that something's putting pressure on a gas pedal or something's putting pressure on a brake. And so because of that, it's what you do up here and how you make your choices for yourself to make your life better. You know, it's all about living life. It's not about fighting someone else. Try to and I tell my daughter, take the emotion out of it. There's a lot of great things that we all have, and find your skill. Hone that skill, and you can do anything you want because nothing stops you but yourself.
Amazing, Lauren. Absolutely amazing. We're going to have you on again. Okay. We've only touched this much, a tip of I'm sure what you can share with us. And if you're willing, we would definitely want to have you on again. This has been absolutely amazing. The women and men who are going to hear this are going to be blown away by it. And I so appreciate you and you giving us your time. And what a way to kick off the Motorsports Masterclass series. Man, my other ones are going to have a lot to live up to, but I'm sure they will. So,
well, thank you. You can follow me on all forms of social media, and I'll answer your questions if you've got questions. just reach out to me. I answer all my own emails and all my own
Okay.
stuff.
All right. So Gabe responded, great stuff. So he's been listening. He just couldn't get the mute off, I guess, or whatever. But
That's
anyway,
thanks, Gabe.
Awesome interview. Loved it, Lauren. And thank you again. I'll be in touch and connect me with some of your people that should be on here, and we will do that. So
excellent. Thank you.
All right. You have a good rest of the day.
Thank you. You too. Take care, everyone.
All right.